You got it. She had a funny sense of humor, and she could see the light things in life, and she worked hard. She got finally, after all these years, my dad remodeled the house and added on to it, and built a kitchen on the back part of it, a new modern kitchen, and got her a brand new propane gas range, and she just cooked with wood. She just had to build fires and cook in an old wood stove with a wood oven. She'd done that off forever. And he did get her this new range, new gas range, and her neighbor across the street, Reddy Waite, she came over and she says, "Ellen, I'm really worried about that gas range that you've got." Said, "That'll make you all sick and it'll ruin your food if you cook it with gas." But she did, and we all survived. We heard Uncle Jess and Aunt Helen talking about microwave ovens. It's almost the same thing. No, cook food in a microwave oven. That's what Reddy told my mom. Don't you cook food in a gas oven. It'll kill you. My mom was a good housekeeper. I know my dad got up one night in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and came back and the bed was made.
That's perfect.
Well, back in high school, I got to, Ed Serber had me come as a relief projectionist for the movies and taught me how to do that. And when he couldn't be there, I sometimes went down there and ran the projection for the movies. And as a fringe benefit, I had the key to the front door of the theater, and sometimes at night after a dance, or it doesn't even have to be that, I'd take all my friends and we'd go down and have a midnight our private movie. And Jack Brown was part of it, and his mom was part owner in the theater. We never did get caught. I don't know what they had done. They caught us doing that.
You only did it about
A few
3 or 4
times,
times.
yeah.
You didn't do it that much, but it was kind of unique.
Not many people that can say they had their own private movie theater. And what were some other jobs that you would do? Like, if you were to, in high school, what would be a normal day for you? What you'd wake up? What time would you wake up? What would you have to go do?
Well, we'd wake up early in the morning and well, we did most of the chores the evening. We brought wood in and for the kitchen range, and also for the heater roller in the front room. And without doing that, we'd be cold. It was always my job to milk the cow every night. My dad milked it in the morning. He got up early and milked it in the morning. Milked them. We usually had 2 or 3 cows. We take the cows to pasture and bring them back.
How far away was the pasture?
About a mile and a half.
Why don't you say that into it, the pasture?
You drive the cows down to the pasture. Probably a mile to 2 miles. I don't know what it was away. And sometimes we drive our horses. We take the bikes. I take our bikes down and drive the cows down. They knew where to go. They just followed them. We had to just lock the gates. And we went down one time on our bicycles and taking the cows down and bringing them. And it'd been raining, and the old clay roads down there. I got so much mud in the fenders of the bikes, they wouldn't even move. We just had to abandon them along the road.
Tell about Uncle Carl and your Christmas present.
I had an uncle named Carl that worked for Schuster's in Holbrook.
Carl Davis.
We really liked to see him come. He was an old bachelor all his life, never married. He had a good job in Schuster's. As a matter of fact, he got to be manager of the Schuster store in Holbrook. And he would come up at Christmas times, and he was most generous. He had really the best gifts I ever got at Christmas time. He had for all his nieces and nephews. He'd bring from that Schuster store. It was a wholesale and a retail store both. And during the war years, he was able to get Levi's. Levi's were impossible. Overalls were impossible to come by. You just couldn't get them. But I always had brand new ones. And everybody in the class was so jealous of my pants.
Because Uncle Carl would...
And another thing you couldn't get during the war was candy, and he always brought us candy. We loved to see him come. He was my favorite uncle. He treated the kids, and he loved the kids, and he treated us so well.
Now tell about...
I had another uncle, an Uncle Lawrence, that served in World War I many years. He was kind of injured there some way, and gassed or something. He came home and he never married. Well, he married when he was 90 years old about, but he used to go out to the ranch with him and work with him quite a little bit. And he'd always make biscuits for breakfast, and then we'd take them for lunch and put with sardines or anything else that was good he had. And we'd work out there building fence or whatever we had to do, branding calves. And I stayed with him out there on a continual basis. We'd come in on the weekends for at least one summer. And he was a hard-working man, and he was a good man. And one time we'd build a new stock water tank there. It was a high tank, about 6 feet high, I guess, a metal tank with a concrete bottom. It was a brand new one that had been built. And we put a little wood ladder up the side of it so they could go up that ladder where the water came out of the windmill that was pumped into the tank. You could reach over a little ways there, quite a little ways, and you could get your drink of water when it was hot and cold. And one day, Uncle Lawrence was up there getting himself a drink of water, and I saw my opportunity, and I ran and I hit him and I knocked him into the tank. And he managed to splash around in that water, and he got out and climbed down the ladder, and he'd hold his pants legs out and we'd look. He couldn't believe I was there. Never did find out. He never did see me. I just hit him and was gone. To this day, well, he never knew. I never confessed to him. I knocked him in the water tank. I'd probably killed me if he'd known that.
Some things that you can remember about her when she was young.
I never did know her. We lived in the same town, 3 blocks apart, and I never was even acquainted with her. So.
And I didn't remember him. We weren't even aware of each other.
Ran in different neighborhoods, kind of different people.
That's another thing you might tell what you did in your neighborhood.
What else?
What was your dad like?
He was a good, honest, hard-working man. He worked hard all his life. He didn't have much education. He had to quit school after the 8th grade and went out and homesteaded at the ranch east of town, and spent a couple of years out there just homesteading, and he got a start in a ranch. And the government gave everybody a section of land that would stay and live on it for 1 or 2 years. I don't remember what it was. Had a little cabin, and he stayed out there. And one time a couple of men rolled up to his cabin he lived in, and they wanted to know if they could spend the night there and maybe have a supper with him. He said, "Oh, I'll be glad to have you." He said, "I get so lonesome out here." And so he started to fix some biscuits and things for the evening meal. And one of the men said, "What can I do to help you?" He said, "You can take this bucket and go down to the spring. It's about a block down, and get a bucket of water out of the spring." So the man went down there, and he got a bucket of water, started back with it. And the sheriff's posse, came to the top of the hill, and they began shooting at him. And wherever they'd shoot in the ground, and he just kicked the ground with his foot and walked up and set the bucket of water down on the table in the old cabin, hadn't spilled any of it. And he and his partner, they went out the back door and headed up the wash. They were gone. And the sheriffs never did come down, but the bullets began to fly around the cabin. My dad got down behind the stove because the bullets were coming in through the cabin. And then my grandpa Davis was so mad because the deputies or the sheriff had come there and shot through that cabin with his son there in the inside of it. And the next week or so, my dad went into town. He was walking down the main street in St. John's, and he looked across the street, and there were the two desperados walking on the other side of the street. he was a little bit frightened about that, but they came and they turned themselves in. They'd killed some beefs or something, and anyway, they got caught. And that's the only shootout I know of.
That'd be funny.
Well, Jack Davis and I used to have to drive the cows and bring them back. And down on the road past the Greer house was the Conleys lived. Bolly Conley and his brother. And they would come out, and sometimes they'd give us a hard time. And one day we were going by there, and they came out and grabbed the reins of the horses and were giving us a hard time. And we were a lot younger than they were, and gotten too close to the cattle, driving them back, and a cow had done her job and put manure all over the side of Jack and all over his shoe. He wasn't aware of it, but Bolly Conley came up and grabbed his reins and took the straps of his saddle and ran his head down on his leg and then landed on his shoe. It was all covered with manure. And they turned and looked at each other and said, "Let's get out of here. This kid is all covered with shit." Yeah, in my junior year, I got Uncle Ray. He was the principal. Got him to let us do a yearbook. And that was the first one that the school had ever published. I'd seen him on somewhere, and I thought, well, that's real nice. We ought to have that for our school. So we started out, and we it was right after the war, right during the war, and it was pretty hard to get any quality materials or anything paper. So it was kind of a poor little thing, but we did make an annual. And I made one the junior year and senior year both. I never was involved in sports very much. At that time I only weighed 135 pounds, and I had a lot of earaches and sickness in my life, and I just wasn't any good at sports anyway, so I just didn't participate at all in them. And I did this, and I got into photography to compensate, I guess, for that, and began to do lots of photography for not only for the yearbook, for people around town. And one time, Norma Gibbons Johns came to Uncle Jack's sister came to me. It was during the war, and she needed some pictures, so she and her I think she had two little children, one of those, whatever she had. Anyway, they came, and she needed to have a picture of herself and that child taken so she could go join her husband somewhere he's in the service. And she came, and I said, "I don't have any film. I can't take your pictures." And I couldn't. I didn't have any film at all. And she kept coming back every day, and she just wouldn't take no for an answer. She was a real persistent lady, or girl at that time. She just wouldn't take no for an answer. So finally one day I said, "All right, Norma, I got some film. Sit down on the chair with your child, and I'll take your picture." So she did it. And so as she went home, I took a piece of paper and drew some stick figures for sitting on the chair as they're holding a little baby, just a stick figure, and put it in an envelope for her and left it with her name on it. And I was gone the next day, and she came to pick up her picture. my mom handed it to her, and she opened it up, and she looked at it, and she burst into tears. And I was really chastised by my mom. That poor girl, what did you do to her? She never came back again.
That's great.
Before you do it, before you turn it on.
Okay.
Yeah, in my class, Milton Farr, Robert Patterson, Tilden Wilbur, Jack Brown, LeVar Wilkins, and myself.
Rob Roy, did you say that?
Yes. Six.
And Dixon.
And Dixon Anderson. Dixon did never was never a bishop, but he was a mission president.
And Al Anderson, Gary Brown.
Yeah,
But
they were
none
never,
of their,
no.
They were just some that went.
But out of that class of 18 or 19 kids, why, there was 5 or 6 bishops. I mean, a lot of. I was really surprised how many bishops came out of that class.
But tell them what you would do. Every summer you'd go on your horses.
Yeah, are we ready to start?
You're already going.
Yeah, I start whenever.
Oh, you haven't started?
No,
It's going.
tape is cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every summer, when we were in high school, as soon as school was out, we'd go on the boys in my class would all get together and go out to the ranch on a camping trip. We'd go down to the old ranch house and ride our horses out there and just stay. And we'd ride out to the Black Mesa and different places during the day and just had one good time, I guess. And one year we went out there and we were just getting our camp all set up, and here came Dixon Anderson's dad over the hill in his car. Down he came, and he stopped and he rolled the window down and he said, "Dixon, you forgot your coffee." And he handed him a can of coffee out the window. And that was when Dixon's dad was bishop. He brought him his coffee because he got some somewhere and he meant to bring it, but he forgot it.
Hidden it under his bed.
But anyway, we had a night, made our own entertainment and had a good time on that camping trip. There was Al Udall, Rob Roy Patterson, Dixon Anderson, Milton Farr, Tilden Wilbur, LeVar Wilkins, Larry Stradling, probably. That was, and Jack Brown. That usually involved in these camping trips. And that usually lasted about 2 or 3 days. I don't remember how long. We all rode horses out there. We all came back and didn't get much sleep at night. And one year, some of the guys had some whiskey they brought along, and I didn't drink any of it. And Jack Brown didn't, and maybe 1 or 2 of the others. But some of them, Dixon and Rob Roy and Al Udall and Gary Brown, they did get drunk, just staggering drunk. And then a little while later, they were all so sick, they were over in the wash, heaving their cookies up. They all made them all sick, and boy, that was a terrible thing. I took some pictures of them all in the wash, throwing up.
But they ended up being.
But in that same class, I ended up with quite a few of them being bishops. Milton Farr was the bishop. Tilden Wilbur, Jack Brown, Rob Roy Patterson, LeVar Wilkins, and myself, at least, were all bishops later on in our lives. So I guess that wildlife didn't hurt us too much.
They're good cook.
We used to go up. My grandmother Burke, she lived in Eager, and my mom would take us in the old pickup she had, and we'd head up for Eager, and she'd spend the day or maybe even the night sometimes, and we'd come home. She's got visiting her parents, her mom, and Grandma Burke. She was one of the best cooks I've ever seen as far as pies went. She could make the most delicious berry pies and mince pies and all kinds of pies. They were just out of this world, the pies that woman could make. But she always made you eat her horrible vegetables before you got any of them. And they were horrible. They were
Parsnip.
parsnips and rhubarb. Lots of really horrible vegetables she had too. And my mom was always a real good cook. She made the best food we can imagine. She'd always have Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas dinners or Christmas evening dinners, and she really knew how to cook. She was a good cook, and we all enjoyed her food. She and my dad were never very close to the church. I don't think they went but once or twice a year, maybe on Christmas and Easter. That's about it.
When you're growing up, but later
They never did get married. Of course, they went to the temple. They were married in the temple, and they went to the temple to be married when they were been married about a year or 2 years. And but people back then, that's about all they ever went to the temple was to get married. We knew other people in town that had been married but never been back again. But my folks did begin to go after when we got married. They went with us, and
to church.
each one of the kids that were married there.
To go where?
What?
To go where?
To the temple. My dad was a kindly, good man, and he did the very best he could. And when he died, why, he left considerable property, and it accumulated quite a bit, a lot more than I have.
Your mom always had, not home evening, but anyway, Christmas Eve. And her divinity was just wonderful.
Her homemade bread was outstanding, and after school she'd always, nearly every day, seemed like, she had hot bread. We put butter on and jelly and had the milk from the cows. Come home hungry from school, why, she always had that for us.
What type of memories do you have of her? What are some things that you can remember about her as a mother and as a person?